Hey guys, welcome to Total Football again for another week. It's been another exciting week of football, and joining me here today is my colleague Phillip Rollo from our Stuff football team and sports team in general. How you going, Phillip?
Yeah,
how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah,
it was fun up until yesterday, and then the proverbial hit the fan, and Darije Kalezic announced he was going to be leaving at the end of the season, but we don't know when, or if he'll stay until the end of the season, or if he will be gone by next week, which seems to be what the club want, but not what Darije wants. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's not really surprising. We were actually probably talking about this earlier in the week, where we thought it's a good week for Kalezic to go, seeing there was no game this weekend.
Yeah.
It'd make sense to find a replacement for him. We always kind of knew he was probably going to be gone at the end of the season. It was just whether he was going to go beforehand or not, which we still don't know yet, even after this announcement. But it was 17 points. They're currently experiencing their worst season on record. So there's no way he could have survived that, right?
Well, no, you wouldn't think so, would you? Although he's hanging on there for dear life, and he seems to be just, I don't know what he's hanging on for. Maybe he wants a payout, maybe he just wants to try and prove himself for the rest of the season. It's understood they have a clause in his contract where they can sack him if they don't make the top six, but because they can still make the top six, it would appear there's some ruminations occurring in the background. So I reckon by this time next week he's going to be gone though, right? Surely.
Yeah, I think so. There's nothing really to gain from him staying on. Yeah. I know Paul Eiffel came out today and said that he should go immediately because the players need who are fighting for a contract need a new coach on board to prove that they can stay on, right?
Well, yeah, you'd hope so. What would you want to be? What are you trying to prove if you just know the coach is going? So he's not going to be here next season. I'm not going to play for him. What's the point there? I suppose who's responsible for this mess then?
Well, I think Kalezic has dug himself a bit of a hole. He's spoken a lot about the players not being up to A-League standard, but there hasn't been a heck of a lot to suggest that he's up to A-League standard himself. No. And the people who hired him, I suppose, is we turn to now. It's like, I don't know if they properly assessed what they were getting when Kalezic signed. It's a bit of a one where you're like, yeah, he got sacked from a lot of places, but did you ask those places why he was sacked? And they might have told you, well, he's not a very good coach. And then maybe you'd say, well, maybe we shouldn't hire him. But they did talk to a lot of people from all accounts. They talked to a few people from different areas and some people from the city group who run Melbourne City and Manchester City, and apparently good judges of character and coaches, although their coach this year hasn't been doing very good either. But so it's like, it's another pretty average decision from the management of the club to bring in a guy who's led them to their worst ever A-League season. Yeah, and I think it's interesting too that the club's come out now and said that they've almost been put off signing a foreign coach, and they realise they should look for a coach with a bit more knowledge of the A-League. Obviously a lot of fault probably does go on the club for hiring him, but I think they've realised that he's not the guy, and he's not at the standard, and it's time to move on. I think the only problem is you look back at the season and it's really been a season wasted. What can you say has been any improvement the Phoenix have made? I mean, we've spoken before about Matt Redenton breaking into the starting 11, which is a pretty small positive in the grand scheme of things.
You've just wasted an entire season, and it's pretty crucial for the Phoenix because in 2 years' time, if the A-League is still run by the FFA and they still have to meet the FFA's metrics, which are two massive, massive ifs, given that what's going on over there with the FFA. But if those things are still happening, then they're buggered. Like, crowds are down, TV ratings cannot be up. They must be down. Like, they're down across the league anyway. Memberships are slightly up, but they gave away 1,000 of those anyway, so they're always going to be up. And then, what's the other metric? That's 1, 2, 3. Crowds, TV, members. I don't know what the other one is. There's 4 of them, but it's all just gone to absolute shit, really.
Yeah, I think what brings us to who they get now, and I think with the future of the Phoenix at stake, this is a pretty important decision, really, because the next coach has to be successful. This next coach has to get results, bring the crowds back, get people watching it on TV, both in New Zealand and Australia, and give people a reason to to say the Phoenix deserve to be in the A-League, because I think under Kalezic, for the first ever time, you were hearing fans of the Phoenix questioning their worth in the competition, which is pretty scary, I think.
Yeah, when your most ardent fans come out and start saying that sort of stuff, then you know you're in trouble. Do you think someone needs to come from the club? And I know David Dome fronted the media yesterday, but I mean, I personally would like to see one of the owners come out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the Phoenix owners definitely need to come out and even if it's hosting a fan evening where they can, talk to their dedicated fan base and ask or answer some questions, because, yeah, as I say, people are really questioning the worth of the Phoenix now, and they must, they want to know what kind of direction the club's going in. Why weren't they signing Kiwi players at the start of the season? And just like explaining the reasoning for things like this. And yeah, now is the best time, I think, for them to do.
And it can't just be David Dome, because everyone gets on David Dome's back, but it's his job is just to implement the philosophy or the vision of the committee, the football committee, the board, and the chairman, Rob Morrison. So they're the ones who are telling him what to do, and then he just has to go out and implement it somehow. So what exactly do they want to do? What does the chairman want to do? What does the football committee want to do? What does the board want to do? And they need to come out and they need to start stating that sort of stuff. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and the thing I definitely want to hear from them is to say, are they committed to making sure the Phoenix are going to exist not just beyond the license extension, but for the next 50 years? Yeah, because the whole debate of getting rid of the Phoenix, I mean, what can you counter that with this season? There's nothing. They're bottom of the table. I think when they've been a competitive team, you can always say, well, if you're not the worst team in the league, you can't kick them out. But at the moment, they are the worst team in the league, and I think that's a big worry.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Let us know and hit us up on Twitter and social media and tell us what you think. What do you want to hear from the club? What do you need to hear from the owners to make you get the faith back? And what do you want to see from the club to set you? Because there's people just aren't going through the doors as well. That's the other problem. I reckon they've lost most of the Wellington public. Most people, I mean, you know people and I know people. I knew people who were season ticket holders for the first 6 or 7 years, even 8 years of the Phoenix existence. And these days, you going to the game on Sunday? They, what game? Well, the Phoenix playing a home game. And they're like, I'm not going to go to that. So they've just lost absolute touch with their fan base. There's still the yellow fever, but even they're shrunk in half in size, and they're battling away, trying to, keep the faith, I suppose, because some of them are just losing it.
It was funny. I caught a taxi the other day, and I was talking to the taxi driver about the Phoenix, and he said he used to go to games, but he no longer does. So I asked him why, and he said, "Well, you know what the result's going to be. You know they're not going to win." And I think that's the thing. Is like you go and like even if you watch the game, like when Sarpreet Singh's playing, it's exciting. There's a young Kiwi to watch. Roy Krishna's a good player to watch. He's fast. But who else are you there to see? At the moment, like the football's been so dire, there's actually been no reason to get excited about going. And the public are paying money to go watch this team, and there's kind of not much of a reason to.
Even when the football hasn't always been good at the Phoenix, it's been absolutely abysmal at some points of the Herbert era and even earlier in the Ernie Merrick era. But even when you went there to those games and you knew it was probably going to be an awful game of football, but you knew there was going to be 11 people out there who were going to give it their all for the shirt, and they were going to get out there and show some passion, and they were going to kick lumps out of people if they had to kick lumps out of people, or they were going to get up in people's faces and they were going to fight for the club and to try and take the game forward. And you hope that eventually that was going to lead to more, better players coming to the club and the club getting better. And they sort of reached a peak around, 2010 when they made the elimination final, and you thought, okay, they can really kick on from here. And it's all just gone downhill. It's all just disappeared. And even I know they had one finals appearance since then, but it's been tough.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything you can think of immediately in terms of ways to fix the Phoenix?
I don't know. As they say, they've at least acknowledged that they need to appoint a coach who knows the league. And I think they need to appoint Ramon. I think Ramon Trabilix is the guy to go to, I reckon. Just because he's going to bring Kiwis in, I think. Kiwis and a few Spanish players. And he understands both the New Zealand football culture and just New Zealand culture in general, because he's been here for a decade. And that's what Ricky had, at least. He knew New Zealanders and New Zealand football and even Australians and how to get the best out of them. You get another Australian coach in, that's fine. He can bring Australians with him, and then you can continue to be an Australian club and have Australian players. But as you say, I mean, let's see some Kiwis in there and showing a bit of fight for what is our only professional club in New Zealand.
And I think too, Ramon would bring the fans on board. You look at the comments on their Facebook page when they announced that Kalezic was stepping down at the end of the season, and so many of them were people wanting Ramon to get an opportunity. And New Zealand football missed out on that by, they went with Fritz Schmidt. And we were talking about this just last week, that we thought Ramon should have been the guy. And I think, personally, I think he would be a better fit at a professional club, because he can sign players, he can bring those Spanish guys in. So I think now's the perfect time for him, because I think you would see a bit of the fans would be pretty stoked about it. They would want to go watch. Like, let's see how, Ramon what he can do with the Phoenix.
His team play good football as well. And as Paul Eiffel said, he treats that Auckland City and works them like a professional football club. They're more professional than some professional football clubs. And I'd hazard a guess, they're more professional than Wellington Phoenix almost. So there's nothing to say that he can't do it at the Phoenix. There are people who say, well, he's only ever done it in the league's crap, and the Oceania is too easy to qualify for the Club World Cup, and then he goes there and sometimes they win. So it doesn't matter. Coaching is difficult at any level. They all have their challenges. And if you can be consistently winning at any level of football, that means you're a good coach, in my opinion.
And I think too, it's like people say, well, he hasn't had that, he hasn't been able to do it at a professional level. So he hasn't had that chance, and I think now's the time to give him that chance. The timing's perfect. I mean, he's going to finish up with Auckland City at the end of the season. I think it'd be kind of worrying, I think, for the Phoenix fans if they don't go for him. But are there other candidates that you think that jump to mind?
Well, obviously Aurelio Vidmar's been put out there by myself. It's a weird thing to say, but Vidmar is out there, and he, as I understand, has met with people from the club, even though they said they haven't approached anybody yet. So he's obviously been sounded out, and he's a solid A-League coach, and he's been the under-23s coach for 6 years in Australia up until 2016, and then he went to Asia. So he knows a lot of the young Australian players and has good relationships with them, and can probably sell the Phoenix as a chance to prove themselves at A-League level and build something that way. I don't think that's going to be necessarily the best way to approach things, because that was kind of what Merrick did. And although they were playing reasonably well sometimes, it started to lose that disconnect has started to develop between the fans and the players, right? And the team, because there was more players coming from the NPL over in Australia. They weren't having as many Kiwis because they were worried about All Whites games. At least for the next 2 years, there ain't going to be many All Whites games, so they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and I still think young New Zealanders is the way to go. I think, if you look at the players Vidmar might bring in, they're not going to be the best young Australian players because they're playing abroad. So they're going to be the next, tier down, kind of like a Scott Galloway, who's kind of like the players that we're seeing at the Phoenix at the moment. I mean, if they could get a Daniel Harzani, I'm sure that'd be great. But I think they might have more of a chance finding a gem here in New Zealand than they would, with that second tier young Australian talent.
Yeah. The other guys are probably Tony Popovic, who would be too expensive for the Phoenix.
Yeah, I can't see him wanting to come here.
Absolutely not. Mark Rudin, who always pops up because Fox Sports always put his name out there because he's a guy for them, but I don't think he would want to come here. There's been so many times where he's maybe thrown his hat in the ring and got battered down that he doesn't seem that keen. And from there, you're looking at any other random Australian coach who wants a job, and we're probably not thinking they're going to go down the foreigner route unless there's some amazing guy who just pops up and wants a holiday, like our friends at New Zealand Football. So we'll go into that.
Yeah, I was going to just make one point, which we might be able to add.
Wrap it up, don't worry.
I think just one thing to add too is, there's 14 players off contract at the end of the season.
Yep.
So Roy Krishna's been signed. That's the key one.
Yeah.
I think the good thing about being in that position too is the new coach that comes in, especially if they can come in now, they've got a bit of a clean slate to work with, which is probably pretty rare with professional football. Like we've seen a lot of coaches come into the Phoenix even where they kind of feel like they haven't got their squad that first season, and it takes season 2 for them to get the players they want. So if they can get someone on board now, they can assess those guys who are there, work out which ones to keep, and I doubt there'll be many, especially with those imports. Like, I personally think all of them should go, except for Krishna.
Yeah, well, the 4 of them are off contract, the other 4, so they can all, I mean, Rossi's may as well, he may have already left. You never know. He'll be one of them on the first plane out of here.
Yeah, but I think that's one positive. The new coach coming in is going to have that clean slate, and they can build their own squad.
What do you guys think? Who do you think is going to be? Who's the coach you want to see at the Phoenix, and what do you want that coach to do with the club? What players do you want him to sign? Let us know down in the comments. But no, that will wrap us up for another week. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Again, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Tell us in the comments, and yeah, we'll catch you next week when we've got a new Phoenix coach, hopefully.